Everyone, we're calling the meeting to order. Let's begin by discussing the rules. We'd ask that everyone exercise the same level of respect and decorum that you would expect in return. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated, and deal with each other accordingly. If you cannot, maintain your composure or keep your comments to a minimum when others are speaking, you will be asked to leave the room. With that being said, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the buzzer will go off at the end of that time, and then we'll ask you to step aside so that the next person can speak. We have a number of people who have indicated that they wish to give a public comment, and we want to allow everyone an opportunity to speak. With that being said, roll call. Abbas Camara. Here. County Controller Corey O'Connor.
Here.
Terry Klein.
Here.
Rich Fitzgerald.
Steve Pilarski.
Judge Lazara.
Present.
Sheriff Kraus.
Here.
Gail Moss.
Here.
Pat Katina.
Bethany Hallam.
With that being said, we will now hear from Community Corrections.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Cordze with Passages to Recovery. This past January, we had, let me see here, total admissions were, can't read my notes. I believe we had 11 admissions over the past January. Currently, we have 21 men in residential treatment, 10 women. In transitional living, we have 8 men and 3 women. This past month, we had 3 clients moved successfully to transitional living. 6 successfully completed the program, and 2 were revoked and returned to Allegheny County Jail. Clients are continuing to take GED classes through Goodwill in Pittsburgh, literacy. We've also, hopefully this month, be starting the men's job readiness programming through Goodwill, hopefully to get that set up in the next week or so.
Ms. Hallam.
Thank you for that. I have a question. I think you said 2 people went back to jail?
Yes.
And what are things, if you don't want to speak to specific instances, what are things that would send somebody from your program back to jail?
Usage, also, continued bringing drugs into the facility, just kind of a continued pattern of non-compliance, not cooperating with treatment, not making progress. We typically will do what we call treatment team meetings. Within the first 21 days, we'll do that, and then every 30 days, and we'll involve probation. If they're involved with JRS through one of the specialty courts, we'll involve them in that also, so that if someone is stuck, that they're not wasting their time. But it also prepares them when they go in front of the judge for their monthly reviews to advocate for themselves, to talk about what their progress is. Because typically there's 3 questions that I have them ask. What are you working on as far as your recovery? What could you be putting more effort into? And what are some things that you're avoiding that you need to start working on?
So it's not like a one and done, one incident. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Renewal Center.
Good evening, Board. Frank DeClaire for Renewal Incorporated. Start with our current census. We have currently 86 males in our work release program, 9 females in work release, 10 males in inpatient treatment, and 6 females in inpatient treatment. Just to give a COVID update, we had 0 reentrants test positive for COVID in the month of January. We did have 4 overall staff test positive. That minor symptoms, no hospitalizations, so everything was fine there. Employment numbers. In January, we had a 52% employment rate with an average pay rate of $14.02. In the month of January, we were involved in 3 different community service special projects. 2 of those with Thrive 18 provided about 20 hours of service. to their locations, assisting with the food bank project. And also, we partner with Mount Air Community Center with some cleaning and office movement service hours.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank-
Electronic monitoring?
Good evening, Board. Steve Eswine with the Probation Office. We have nothing new to report outside of the report that was submitted, just some highlights that we have had 604 people on at the end of the month, which was down a little bit, but not uncommon for the time of year, at the end of the year. And we had 85 people successfully complete the program during that time. So that's all we have.
Any questions?
Yes, Judge Lazare.
You know what this question is, right?
Yes, I do know what
Because I heard this rumor that there were new sober links.
I have 10 sober links in hand.
Yes.
I am just waiting on court administration to sign off on the user agreement. I checked
Thank you.
them today and didn't hear back yet.
So
So
I can start writing those orders.
soon, yes. You will be the first to know when I have that in hand.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
If you don't mind, just for the members in the audience, what is a sober link?
So the SoberLink is a handheld portable breath tester for alcohol that can be pre-programmed to give random testing at any time during the day. So.
All right, thank you very much.
So basically, instead of them having on a bracelet on their leg, it's a handheld thing that attaches to the smartphone, and they get a call that says, you need to blow into this thing. They blow into it, it takes a picture so we know it's actually you blowing into it, and then we're able to monitor folks with alcohol. People with alcohol recovery, it's been incredibly helpful. And so not having them has been difficult. So I appreciate very much that I can fill up those 10 in no time.
I know you can.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to have public comments. There are a few people who did not provide any additional information. It's a requirement that you provide your address. So there's a gentleman, Tony, I don't have a last name, but if you'd like to come and put your address on here, sir, please. And then there's also I can't read the last name, but it looks like Anthony White, perhaps? That's me. So you signed both sheets?
Did you sign two, or did you just sign one?
Well, there's a Tony, and then there's an Anthony.
So this is you.
Okay, if you don't mind putting an address down.
Thank you, sir.
So there's still a Tony on the other list. I guess that might be you, though. Tony from Penn, maybe someone, I don't know. All right, thank you. That's okay. That's all right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so our first speaker, some of these names are difficult to read, but it looks like perhaps, well, the first page is that Robert Maddock from Penn? Again, we'd ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And if you could start by stating your full name and spelling your last name for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Robert Maddock, and my last name is spelled M-A-D-D-O-C-K.
Thank you.
And I am here as a member of the PIN, the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. As you may notice, there have many people from PIN here today, and I'm sure you'll recognize that there are a number of us who've been here pretty regularly over the past 6 months. You may have some inkling why we're here, but I'd like to give you a true explanation. We're a people of faith. For those of us who are Christians, and not all of us are Christians, but we share a lot of things. There's a story we hold sacred, and with that story we're called to recognize the inherent value of each and every person, because the Bible teaches us that we're all made in the image of God. Our brothers and sisters in the Allegheny County Jail are God's children, just like you and me. So we come each month because those in your jail may have lost their freedom, but they have not lost their humanity. We can be in no other place as long as they are being treated as we have heard so long as we have heard about so long. We can do nothing other than stand here as their defenders. Our hope and our prayer, and this time it's for all of us, Christians and the others, is that there will come a time when we will not be forced to be here. But at present, that is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll now hear from Lisa Pegues.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Pegues, P as in Paul, E-G-U-E-S.
Thank you.
I'm here as the mother of Samuel Pegues, who's incarcerated in the Allegheny County Jail. The purpose of me speaking is because January 6th, when I first appeared here, my son wasn't permitted to receive mail. He wasn't permitted to receive visits, and he had just returned to his block from being in a physical altercation with someone, and then the jail moved him to a part where that person was. As a result, he was jumped. I didn't understand a lot of things. This is a follow-up because after I spoke with Deputy Warden Adam Smith, my son was eventually moved back to a cell. However, when I spoke to my son, he was severely injured because of the physical altercation. He kept complaining about his ribs being hurt. I called a counselor. I called Deputy Warden Adam Smith, and my son did not receive medical attention until January 30th. This incident happened before January the 6th. I don't understand why people are denied basic rights. Although, if my son was home and he went to the doctor for ribs, there's not a lot that they can do, but they can tape them up to keep them from moving around. If his rib would have been messed up further, it could have punctured a lung, which he has asthma. It could have been fatal. When he did receive medical attention on January 30th, the person told him, there's not much we can do. Even if you were on the street, all they would do is tape up your ribs, but I have to schedule you for an x-ray. It's February 2nd. He still has not had an x-ray. I don't know. I just want to bring it to the attention of the board that although things happen, they happen very slowly, and they don't happen in the way that I think they should. Everyone deserves basic human rights, and that's if you're sick, you should be able to get medical attention. I know my tax dollars pay for it. That's all. Thank you for
Thank you very much. I want to apologize in advance for this name. I believe that's Khadidra Kendrick.
That's right.
All right.
Hello, my name is Khadidra Kendrick, last name spelled Kendrick. I'm here to advocate for my son. His name is Denzel Kendrick. He is an inmate inside of the Allegheny County Jail. He has been brought here from Cambria County so he could receive medical attention. They could not continuously bring him from Cambria County and allow him to get the treatment that is required for him. My son has SS disease, sickle cell disease. So I'm here because I have been fighting for my son to receive medical treatment and medication. I had received a phone call that I needed to watch a YouTube video, and my son was unresponsive, and 3 medical emergencies were called out for him. So the first 2 videos that I watched, and it was grueling, You know, I know my son is unconscious and he's not receiving any help, and basically there was nothing that I can do. So I'm watching a video. It took me 2 days. The third video that I watched where someone came up and they said that they were waiting for medical, but medical was busy at the time, so he's laying there for 45 minutes, and no one rendered any aid to him. I mean, I'm watching on the video, and I see a guard that's standing there and is walking back and forth, but he's not coming anywhere near my son's cell. And also I see or hear of a Captain Lee or Sergeant Lee that tells everyone on there, you keep making noise in here, he'll never get no effing help. I hear that statement being made. I hear a statement about someone's trying to reach underneath the cell to hold my son's hand as he lay on the ground. What I'm not understanding is, first of all, why his medication had been denied to him. Now, penicillin, folic acid, amitriptyline, hydroxyurea, Senecot, albuterol. These are the medications that are coming to my thought process, not including his pain management. The condition that he has, he'll die probably from infection, because that's what happens to sickle cell patients. There's no reason that they're not giving him his penicillin. Please tell me why I'm having a problem communicating with the jail. I've been begging them to give my son some medical treatment. I've been begging them to allow him to receive his medicine. So, making all these phone calls, I'm not getting to the medical unit. Then I end up getting Miss Amelia, and speaking with her, and I get, well, I'll call down there and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. Never get a response from that. Then finally I go in and I'll file a formal complaint against the Allegheny County Jail because you all are still not giving him his medication.
Past your 3 minutes.
Patch it up.
Past your 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Well past your 3 minutes.
This is the whole issue. His life means something. He's not an animal. And even if he was, animals receive medical attention. Nobody wants to hear it. But you stop giving him his medication because the doctor feels as though I got 3 people in my family that got sickle cell and they don't take as much medication as you do. So you stop him from taking his medication? And nobody wants to hear it. But will anybody want to hear it when they allow my son to die inside the county jail? That his life didn't matter. He matters. He matters.
Next, hear from Michael Matthews.
Hello, and thank you, Board, for your time. I'm going to follow up a little bit about what Khadijah said about sickle cell. My name is Michael Matthews, M-A-T-T-H-E-W-S. I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Sickle Cell Foundation. This board here today can make such a difference. Last month, we had 5 individuals who were incarcerated at Allegheny County Jail being held. Right up the street at UPMC Presby, you have one of the leading centers in the world, not in the county, not in the state, not in America, in the world, that are more than willing to come help provide medication, because I do understand, if you're on the outside, for whoever doesn't know, if you go to a hematologist and they prescribe you certain things, when you go to jail, it's only a suggestion. It is considered a suggestion that the medical director of that institution doesn't necessarily have to follow exactly what the medical doctors on the outside are saying. You guys can make such a difference here today, not tomorrow, not next week or next month. If you know who to call and say, hold a meeting with these people. Find out what we could be doing better for those individuals that are living with sickle cell. And like I said, you could save a life just by doing that. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. All right, we'll now hear from, I believe this is Beth Shangar.
Beth Schongar, SCHONGAR.
Thank you.
First, we need to start prescribing medications for opioid use disorder for everyone in the jail who needs the treatment and chooses to participate. This will save lives in the jail and in the critical period right after people leave the jail. I've not heard about MOUD plans being developed for this at the previous 2 JOB meetings. 2, traumatic practices should not be used routinely. Practices of strip searches, CERT teams, and punitive use of administrative custody need to be researched by the Jail Oversight Board, by talking to people in the jail, and then the law and the policies clarified and monitored. Strip searches should not always be a given for adults or for children. There are many types of scanners available for non-invasive screening. CERT teams, commonly known as SWAT teams, should not always be called for failing to obey an order. Mental health professionals can help when an order is disobeyed. CERT teams should never be called for disabled people and people on the mental health pods until the mental health teams are present and in charge. This means we need mental health 24/7. Cameras that are not operational must be fixed so violence is less likely and recordings can be checked if there is a problem. Third, necessary medical care must be provided. You heard Ms. Kendricks. Her son is a sickle cell patient who's not receiving the medicine which kept the condition under control until they entered the jail. No one should suffer from this agonizing condition. But this is one instance of many cases where medical care has been dropped when entering the jail. There are also recent cases of hours to respond to medical emergencies, just like she described. Medical staffing must take care of people in the jail, or else people who cannot be cared for must be released.
Thank you. Roy Blankenship.
Good evening, members of the community and the board and the commission. My name is Roy Blankenship, community organizer with BPEP, the Black Political Empowerment Project, and that's Blankenship, BLANKENSHIP. I want to take a second to thank the ladies and gentlemen that spoke before me because you're kind of nailing my point home. Right now, what I'm asking you and the members of the board, some of you are judges, some of you are legislators, most of you are inherent followers and believers that the U.S. Constitution and the Pennsylvania Constitution is valid. We all have a duty to that document that has formed our country. We all have a duty to that document that gives us all inherent rights. What we're speaking about, and most have spoken about, are rights of people who have, some still haven't been convicted of a crime. It is your duty to make sure that these people are able to enjoy the freedoms under Pennsylvania Article 1, Section 1, and Pennsylvania Article Section 113. that these people are treated humanely. A lot of these things that are happening, this board has the power to make movement and to rule on things, and I've only been here 2 times, and I hope that today something moves forward. We have to start moving in the order of decency. If we want to propel those and others that are considered committing crimes or locked up, it is a crime to violate the Constitution and to sit on a post and watch rights be violated. It is your duty to move accordingly. Other than that, I want to say thank you for your time, and I mean it. Something has to be done. The Constitution calls.
Thank you. Tanisha Long.
My name is Tanisha Long, Tanisha Long. I'm here to basically say that accountability is not just for the incarcerated. We do have laws in this country, and one of those laws was passed by voters in 2021, and that was a law concerning solitary confinement. Warden Harper likes to pretend that people are not currently under solitary confinement, but her son is under solitary confinement. Her son is under solitary confinement. Kobe Francis just got ordered to be in solitary confinement for 50 days. It's bad enough that you're not providing these people medical care, but you can call it restricted housing, you can call it administrative custody, you can call it whatever you want, but these people are spending 23 hours in their cell a day in direct violation of the solitary confinement referendum, and nobody seems worried enough to ask any questions. But Bethany, Judge Housey, I heard you ask if the meeting was ready to adjourn. You ask that question all the time. You ask if someone called you a prick. You ask those questions, but you don't ask this man right here if he's violating the law. Her son has sickle cell and he's not receiving medication, and these are the only people that they feel they can go to for recourse, and that's not happening. Her son hasn't received an x-ray for a fight that happened almost a month ago. He could have internal bleeding. He could have a punctured lung. There are a lot of things that can be going on, and it took 26 days for him to even have an answered sick call request. This is shameful. This is embarrassing. The warden is not above the law. You want him to be in charge of a jail, but he's committing crimes himself? That's embarrassing. You're a judge. You're a judge. You sit and you sentence people to this jail knowing what goes on in there because they didn't follow the law, but you're not willing to question this man on why he's not following the law and get some justice for their sons. I'm mad, and I have a right to be mad because this is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to know that this is the county I work in and that the only fight is being done by activists, lawyers, parents, and people who really want to get stuff done. And I have a mad amount of respect for people like Bethany who will continue to go to the point of frustration to get answers out of someone who doesn't believe in public transparency. And he's also walking around the halls of the restricted housing administrative custody unit telling people that if they're there for contraband or if they're there because they put their hands on an officer, they can settle in, that was your quote, that they would not be getting a hearing because he also isn't giving them hearings. They're not receiving hearings. So they've been sitting there for 2.5 weeks at least and have not had an RHU hearing. Ask them about it. It's been verified. This is not okay, and this is a violation of the law, and I hope they sue you for whatever dwindling pension you have left after you're relieved of your duties.
John Kinstowitz.
Come on, John K.
Yeah, my name is John Kenstowitz, Kenstowicz. The following are 2 recommendations I'm making to the board, which I think are critical to ensure the health and safety of our residents at the Allegheny County Jail, and it will bring some harmony to a board that is in continual conflict. First, Warden Harper will grant access to the board and the liaison of all the records of our residents at the jail upon request, especially the records of those residents who have died. 2, Warden Harper's jail administration will provide a presentation to the board of the reviews required by the National Commission on Correctional Health Care when someone dies at the jail. That being a clinical mortality review, an administrative review, and a psychological autopsy when there is a suicide. The state statute that governs the authority of the JOB states the following under subsection E, entitled Investigations. The records of those relating to individual inmates shall at times be available for inspection by the board. Warden Harper continues to violate this state statute on the grounds that the case might be in litigation. Many attorneys have said this statement does not hold water. Regarding the federal law concerning access to records, HIPAA recognizes that there is an exception to the restraints regarding access to records because the JOB state mandated duty is to provide oversight. Our county executive has identified the National Commission on Correctional Health Care as experts. Shouldn't the board be able to hear what the commission is mandating regarding these reviews? Since the board has the duty to provide oversight and we're talking about people dying? A deeper question that gets in the center of this conflict is the warden's fear that information from the records will be leaked to the press and by public by certain members of the board. This would be a serious violation of HIPAA, and severe penalties will follow. On 2 separate occasions, Councilwoman at-large Bethany Hallam has stated to me that she would sign a declaratory statement stating that she is aware of the severe consequences of violating HIPAA law and that she would not provide information to any entity outside the board regarding the records. Different oversight boards across the country are provided access to the records of people who have died at their jail. Why haven't we? I had a meeting with attorney Tim O'Brien, who has had many successful lawsuits concerning ACJ yesterday. He says the JOB has standing and has the right to these records. He says by the JOB not demanding access to these records, the county is lining itself up for more lawsuits, costing taxpayers more money. He recommends that I have a meeting with the county executive. The authors of the state statute purposely mandated 2 judges of the Court of Common Pleas, one of which shall be the president judge or his designee, to be on the board, because they knew the judges have a deeper understanding of the law and will feel more of a responsibility to ensure the statute is followed. According to Attorney O'Brien, both Judge Housey and Judge Lazara have the statutory authority to obtain these records without a subpoena. Please, Judge Housey and Judge Lazara, obtain access to these records as needed. My hope is that all 9 board members will sign this declaratory statement referred to, and the warden will grant access. The board will find that the intensity and conflict at board meetings will significantly diminish if this action is taken. 17 people have died at our jail since April of 2020. What is more important? Thank you.
Muhammad Ali Nasir.
My name is Muhammad Ali Nasir, spelled Nasir.
Thank you.
Advocacy and Policy Civic Engagement Coordinator for One Hood Media. And I spend every week outside of the jail. And I meet people who get out, people who are recently released. We provide them all types of support. We set up a table out there. We give them cash. We give them cigarettes. We have a conversation with them. And everybody that I talk to always asks me why I'm out there. Why are y'all doing this? Are y'all part of the jail? No, of course not. We hate the jail. And every time I answer, I say because we know how messed up the jail is. Y'all all know how messed up the jail is. I've been to quite a few of these meetings, and I've always been reluctant to speak because I've heard people come up here, pour their heart out, cry some tears out, and I seen like the warden not even, look at them. what I'm saying? People don't even really care. And I'm appreciative of all of the people in the audience. People have been on this job, doing this work for a long time. I want to reiterate a couple of the points that they made, specifically the point that people who are in the ACJ are not convicted. It's less than 10% of people who are in there who are serving a sentence for a crime, right? So that means that people are living under these terrible conditions, terrible, to the point where anybody who's ever been to the penitentiary would prefer to go to the penitentiary than sit in the ACJ. Every one of them. Everybody talks about how terrible the food is. I talked to a guy last week. He said there are not mice in the kitchen, there are rats in the kitchen. I talked to a guy who found a rat tail on his tray. I talked to somebody else who had, feces on their food. When my nephew got out, he was bony. He was less than half of my size. Why? He said he's not eating that food in there. I didn't eat the food when I was in there either. And the first time I was in there on the Act 33, I was 16. I asked Tanisha how many juveniles are in the ACJ. She said 24. That's 24 too many. You know what I'm saying? Adults don't want to go in there. Hardened criminals don't want to go in there. Now, we got children in there who are going to be scarred forever. How do I know? I'm scarred forever. That's one of the reasons why I'm out here. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this work. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, of course, I'm giving props to the people in the audience. I'm giving props to the activists, to the people who actually care. But y'all know what's going on. If y'all haven't done anything by now, I don't expect you to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I give props to Bethany. That's about it. That's where it stops. And the main reason I'm up here speaking is to talk to you, Warden Harper. A lot of people talk about, how messed up the jail is. And out on the streets, everybody knows that you're responsible for it. A lot of people don't want to hold you accountable for it, but I do. You know what I'm saying? I do. And I'm sure that you have a difficult job. I'm sure you're in a difficult position, but I'm also sure of how terrible you are at your job, and we can't wait for you to get out of there.
Looks like Gabriel McMorland.
Straight.
Thank you. I'm Gabriel McMorland, McMorland.
Thank you.
And I'm here today with the Thomas Merton Center. Yes. And a couple people have already said this, but I'm going to list some things that are going to get increasing public attention, and you all are already aware of them. The problem is that we're not seeing enough or any action to address them. And it's especially concerning that some of you have put in a lot of work and probably want to do good and became judges or became the county controller, which is theoretically a watchdog to act as a check and balance for broken systems in the county. And judges are supposed to be part of a system for community safety. And the claim, I don't believe this, but the claim is that the jail is supposed to create community safety. But again, I don't believe that's true, but that's the claim, right? We need this for safety. We need police for safety. We need law enforcement for safety. I've had a lot of friends and loved ones go into the jail and come through the jail, and I don't think that you have to go through the kind of really extensive career development and education that you all did to get to the position you're in now. You wanted it, you got here, and you're not doing it to keep the people safe. Everyone already knows. Of course, the problems of the jail are getting worse, but it's not new to have retaliation. It's not new to set people up to get jumped. It's not new to commit literal international human rights violations by denying medical attention. You all let that man lose his leg, right? We're vying with Rikers Island for worst deaths in custody. And this is something now, there's a proposal to take kids on tours of the jail, to show them that if you get accused of something, you too could be killed and tortured. I mean, this is not a good way to run a system. I also want to address the referendum on solitary confinement. I'm sure that it's possible to make an argument from a legal perspective that maybe what's going on is not violating the referendum. I'm sure you can think about how to politically message it when you talk to the Post-Gazette. But the question is, why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you be motivated, just as the majority of voters were, to protect people and not to implement solitary confinement, not to use chemical weapons, right? And so, like, in real life, people already know what happens in the jail, and they know what's wrong. And if you all can't get the COs under control, what are you even doing? How are you going to be a judge or the county controller or whatever it is? They work for you. And you're put here to keep people safe, and instead they're dying. And you're letting them be tortured. You really got to get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize, but I can't make out this last name, but it's Rachel from the Thomas Merton Center.
Okay. My name is Rachel Nunes, N-U-N-E-S. That's 2 N's as in Nancy. And I'm with the Thomas Merton Center. I don't have anything much to add to what's already been said, or anything really eloquent to say, because I'm also full of anger. I'm here to stand in solidarity with the mothers who have spoken today, who are scared for their children. These mothers shouldn't have to grapple with this fear that their kids' medical needs aren't being met, let alone be ignored by the jail and pushed off by the Oversight board that's supposed to help them ensure that their kids are being treated humanely. I repeat what Gabriel just said. Yins need to do something about this. Yins need to get it together. The warden is breaking the law so far as the solitary confinement ban. Straight up, he's breaking the law. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Reverend Dave Swanson.
My name is Dave Swanson. I'm here with Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. My last name's spelled S-W-A-N-S-O-N. I'm here, I brought my uniform with me. No, I'm not talking about my middle-aged white dad Christmas sweater. I'm talking about my stole here. I'm a pastor. My work is to say words that matter and to listen for the truth, particularly listening for the truth of people's lives. For months, we have come and spoken with you. PIN, the APA Coalition, we've been asking for you all to listen to the truth of the lives of people over whom you hold great power. You have failed. We have been trying to meet with you, board, for months. We have been asked again and again, and you have refused. We've asked individually, we've asked corporately. So we can tell that you are not interested in listening. Not listening to what we need to communicate, hearing our perspective, the perspective of your neighbors and the perspective of people of faith across this county. I hope you will listen to the perspective and voice and stories of these mothers of people who are incarcerated in your jail. You need to listen to the demands we have, to our concerns, and become clear about what we see, whether or not you do. And so you've refused to meet with us and to even acknowledge the unacceptable nature of the situation in the jail. You haven't even acknowledged that these deaths are unacceptable. They are tragedies. So please meet with us. Additionally, we demand, in light of the deaths and over all of these folks who need greater medical attention, more careful medical attention, we demand that families of incarcerated people who are taken to the hospital for unscheduled appointments be notified immediately. And speaking of that, I have to share how appalled and angry I was and still am at the behavior of you all at last month's meeting as you sat here and debated what an emergency is and tried to make space for, oh, it's okay that the warden hasn't, reported these people going to the hospital because, oh, you didn't make it clear. Well, that's on you if you didn't make it clear. The bottom line is that you're enabling this. You're enabling this lack of transparency. Instead of mandating transparency from the warden, you're further enabling his avoidance of accountability despite 17 recent deaths on his watch. Hold the warden accountable. Find a way. If you need to define emergency, great. I think just talking about unscheduled hospital appointments is a great solution. I would ask that you consider that, but hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Bonavolia.
My name is Sharon Bonavolia, Bonavoglia. Thank you, moms, for being here. God, it breaks my heart. I want to state publicly, especially for you, Judge Housey, that I am committed to containing any of my spoken thoughts to this public time, this public comment time only. So I begin by saying shame. Shame on you for bickering over when and how to provide money to the incarcerated that their own overpriced purchases in the jail have accumulated. Shame on you for bickering over the definition of the word emergency instead of making the changes necessary, Judge Warden, to ensure the care that families are notified. Shame on you for so many attempts to chide, disrespect, and shut down the member of this board who is more willing to push back on jail administration in pursuit of better care for the incarcerated. And, oh God, shame on you for any of you who complain about the time this meeting takes, Judge Lazira, for complaining that these meetings are too long. It seems to me that these are indicative of a board and jail administration that is not working to ensure the safety and welfare of those in your charge. With that, I will again remind all of you, all of us, of the names of those who have no more time with their families and friends, who have died under your care since April of 2020. Richard Lenhart, Robert Blake, Cody Still, Daniel Pastoric, John Brady, Martin Buchek, Robert Harper, Vinkley Harris, Justin Brady, Paul Allen, Roger Millspaw, Paul Spisak, Gerald Thomas, Jerry Lee Ross Jr., Victor Joseph Zelenek, Ronald Andrus, Anthony Toloda, and we at Penn hope and pray that the weight of those names, of those people lost, will inspire you to better care of all the incarcerated. And tonight, in particular, for the care of Denzel Kendrick, please, God, protect him from the lack of care he has already suffered, so that his name will not be added to this horrific list.
Darwin Luba.
Hello, my name is Darwin Leuba, L-E-U-B-A. So on the way here, I was wondering what I should talk about, because it seems like we've already talked about all the issues. We already all know what the problems are. We know what the solutions are. And it's really, it always comes down to this board using its statutory authority with some sense of urgency. I think it was August 25th in WUSA, Julie Zenkovich, who reported, I think, Judge Lazar, you talked about wanting to have a jail oversight board liaison within 45 days. And it's been now, over 100 days later, and we still don't have one. And we have mothers here who are trying to find information about their children. And it seems that there just isn't an urgency among this board to get things done, to work together, to have additional meetings in order to make sure that people have nutrition, have health care, have access to books, mental health care, and that we're not violating the laws. And we know incarcerated folks aren't even getting the most basic of nutrition or safely prepared food, and that's something Muhammad Ali Nasir commented about how he didn't eat when he was in the jail because it was so terrible. And a huge part of that is contract enforcement, and that relates to Summit Food Services, the food service provider. And when I was talking to Corey, he said, "Oh, we have to wait on our audit of jail staffing in order to figure out if we can claw money back from Summit and force them to comply with the contract." But we don't need to wait. So, Summit is the food service provider, and in their contract, they're required to manage all food service activities at the Allegheny County Jail. So, quoting from their contract, it says, "Management services. Supplier will perform daily management tasks to include but not be limited to the planning, preparing, organizing, ordering, supervising, and controlling of all food service activities at the Allegheny County Jail. However, as we all know, they don't often send their staff, and Allegheny County Jail staff must instead do their job. And it's well known that we already have this massive understaffing and overtime problem, even without Summit skirting its contractual obligations. And what makes it worse is that taxpayers are paying for this overtime, which means Summit saves money every time it violates its contract and doesn't send employees. And the solution here is simple, because the Controller's Office can just reduce the money paid to Summit equivalent to the cost of that pay in overtime, and Summit shouldn't receive our money and make interest on it. We don't need to wait for the jail staffing audit to do this, because per the contract, every Summit employee working in the jail must be approved by the warden right here. Therefore, you just need to take the list of approved employees and compare it to the entry and entrance logs of the jail, or if there are kitchen supervision logs, check those. When Summit employees aren't in the jail, they obviously aren't managing food preparation, and county staff is instead doing their job for them. And this is a review we should be doing on a regular basis, not just a one-off audit here or there, especially given Summit's notoriety for not providing personnel, for not providing adequate food, for violating its contract in so many different ways. And again, this is something where the controller has the statutory authority, the board has the statutory authority, and it's just not being done. And I don't know how we can listen to all these deaths, to all of this, a death rate that's twice the national average, and say, well, that's just how it is, and we're not going to approach this with any sense of quickness or urgency. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe this is Anthony White.
My name is Anthony White, W-H-I-T-E.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank colorful backgrounds, Mr. Rod Tate, Miss Ella, and the program organizer they had. I graduated from their program a month ago. You're looking at an individual that's been in the Allegheny County Jail. I just left there June 28th. The conditions is horrible. They give you 2 blankets, no sheet. They don't wash your clothes. They keep you locked up. I'm saying for somebody that, y'all the board. Y'all put this man in position. I ain't saying nothing bad about him, but y'all put him in position to collect a check. You give him control to control what he's controlling. He's not controlling it. He's not controlling it. And it's a shame that everybody out here in this audience, everybody come here month after month, say the same thing, going through one after the other. It's up to y'all to make the choice and the decision to get and make something better. Because it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. You know what I'm saying? I was down there for 10 days for some minor stuff, but it took me 8 days just to get my blood pressure medicine. You know what I'm saying? A shower. I ain't took a shower in 3 days. Food. Now, as a warden, as y'all on this panel, if y'all had family members or a loved one was down in the Allegheny County Jail, would you subject them to the conditions and the food and the treatment that they receiving if that was your family member? I mean, everybody comes here every month. This is my second time coming. Like I said, I'm thankful. They gave me a chance. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the prison system jail since I'm 53 years old. That place down there, like my man said earlier, I'd rather go to state. And when you come through there, you know what I'm saying, you gotta sit downstairs 7 days, 5 days, 6 days, and before you get took up to intake. And you sitting in a cell with 30 to 50 people, they throwing up. Toilets is clogged up. You eating bologna sandwiches that's not even bologna, cheese that don't even melt if you put it on a sandwich. I'm keeping it real, like I've been there, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying nothing towards him, but if y'all address and put this man in position to do something and conduct and control, then he should do and conduct and control the way it's supposed to do and conduct and control. You don't sit there, this is the first time I've seen this man probably like 2 times since the last meeting. And I've been in Allegheny County Jail. I was in Allegheny County Jail and my leg tore my ACL. I wrote a letter to the ACLU. You understand what I'm saying? And look, they sent my letter back a month later. I forget the head white shirt's name was. He was a big white guy with blonde hair. He had a limp. And he came on the pod and he said, y'all still got this man here? They wouldn't even take me to the hospital. They let me go that day. I walked out on a cane. I'm just saying the conditions and everything. I'm not trying to say nothing wrong about anybody. A job is a job, but when you put somebody in a position to do a job, then do your job. You know what I'm saying? Do your job. No, that's not, no, bro. Look, I only been here for like 2 minutes. Do your job. You know what I mean? Do your job. You trying to get me off the microphone. I've been here.
Not trying to get you off the mic.
Put your family members in the situation that I was in.
You've exceeded your 3 minutes. I've let you go well beyond your 3 minutes.
Well, y'all got to do something better. Y'all the board, y'all judges, y'all Commonwealth of Allegheny County.
Thank you, Mr. White. James Christopher.
Hello, my name's James Christopher, Christopher, and I'm here to, as a member of Narcotics Anonymous for 20 years. We used to take meetings into the Allegheny County Jail before COVID. but now we're trying to get back into the Allegheny County Jail, and we've hit a brick wall. They said that we can't come into the county jail if you have any felonies, no matter how long they are, how old they are, or if you have any history of prostitution. There's a long, long list, and I don't have it, I can't find it in my email, of things that we can't come in with. But before the COVID, I was bringing meetings into the Allegheny County Jail and coordinating those meetings for years and years, like 8 years. And then after COVID, when we tried to get back in, we had a meeting at the Allegheny County Jail, and this is what we was hit with. Can I ask a question? Just one question is, how many people here are directly or indirectly affected by drugs or alcohol? By show of hands. And the reason I say that is because the Allegheny County Jail saves lives. I believe that. And why I believe that is because I was in Allegheny County Jail. And I got the message while I was in the Allegheny County Jail about recovery. Like I said, I have 20 years clean now. I have a business. I have a life. I've changed my life. But if we don't get the message to those that are in there, they don't know. I mean, they might get it somewhere else, but the chances of them getting it while they were there are nil. And another thing is, like, I believe it's 80% of the inmates in Allegheny County Jail are there directly or indirectly related to drugs or alcohol. And how many of those are repeat offenders? We want to stop that. We want to plant the seed. We want to carry the message. We don't want to argue with you people. We just want to help. But we're not being able to. I don't see where it matters if 35 years ago, that's how old my felonies are, 35 and 40 years. They're for selling drugs. That's what addicts do. I have friends women who are prostitutes who can't get into the Allegheny County Jail, but was coming into the Allegheny County Jail and now are not allowed to carry the message. Alcoholics Anonymous is in the county jail carrying their message because their crimes were not as bad as ours were, I guess. They didn't get felonies for stealing a bottle of wine or urinating in an alley. Just saying, you know, addicts did a lot of things that got them some bad raps. I'm not condoning anything, believe me. I'm just saying our lives change, my life changed. Everybody that gets the message has a chance to recover. If they don't get the message, they don't. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I think the first name is Holly. I can't make out the last name.
All right, hello, my name is Holly Spencer, S-P-E-N-C-E-R. I am a woman in long-term recovery. On January 14th, I celebrated 9 years. I got my message in the county jail and other work release programs. And the women that I would hear come in with hospitals and institutions, we call it H&I, where a Narcotics Anonymous member will come in with a meeting, go over the readings, talk about meeting attendance, what the program offers, which is a daily reprieve from the bondage of alcoholism or narcotics addiction. That's where I found my hope. The woman that came in and spoke, she had been a prostitute in her past. When I met her, she had 5 years clean. 5 years clean was amazing to me. I didn't think that I could ever get a month clean. To get a 5 years clean, you know, was just too big to think about. It was just too big. So, you know, in the process, staying clean and wanting to give back, you know, like the ACJ, it's surreal for me to go back in there. And when I went for my first master's, I went for creative writing, and I was able to take creative writing into the county jail and teach the women in those classes that I used to attend. And that was surreal, you know, and it was a blessing, and it was great to be a part of the solution and to give them hope. And then COVID did hit. Things changed. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I just thank God I got my MFA before it changed, because I needed to go in there as part of my scholarship, you know? So a lot of things were riding on that for me. You know, like, you tell me to change my life, to get it together, to stop being a criminal. And I did, and I do. But now I can't give back to the people that need to hear my story the most. I didn't get my hope from listening to a woman who went to Yale University. No offense if anybody up there did, but I didn't get my hope from listening to a woman who went to Yale University and misused a couple pills. I got my hope from a woman that was smoking crack and shooting dope on the streets of Northside, and that's how I was. I have 9 years clean. My mother thought she was going to bury me. You know, I want to give my hope to somebody else that can relate to me. They need relatability. I needed relatability. You know, that's taking a couple Percocets was not my story. I never prostituted for a bottle of wine. Okay? I made bad decisions, but I was not a bad person. And it's not a moral deficiency. I have an addiction that, unless I'm vigilant, with daily vigilance, you know? What I choose today is I choose to live in a different way. I'm getting my second master's. I work in addiction. I've taken my mother to the Bahamas and parasailing and skydiving. I live a life worth living today, and I want to give that message to people that are stuck in the jail. It can be done. It can be done, and we just want to go back. We just want to go back and give the message. He's nodding. I'm going to be done.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your words. With that being said, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Susan, can I mention just, can I talk 1 second, because it's a compliment.
We would love to hear a compliment. However, we can't, and I'm sorry, Ms. Demick, because we have rules, and there are other people that want to speak. I'm sorry, we can't.
1 minute, I'll be done with it.
I'm sorry.
I want to thank one of your members
We
for
can't.
getting back to me about the problem that I've raised with the board.
All right.
And which has to do with getting the doctors and the students into the jail. I really appreciate Ms. Klein for doing that. And that is what I think many of your brothers should do. I appreciate that very much. Between you, one other thing. You mentioned one other. A suggestion. At the beginning of the meeting, this may not take long for you. Report what you have done well for the group. Tell them what has happened, if anything has, the previous month, instead of the warden getting credit for that.
Okay.
Please do that. And something, maybe it won't take any time. Maybe it won't. But let's say it does.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Your motion. Motion going in the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business.
All right, so here's something good we've done, okay? You wanted to know something good. The liaison position, I understand it's been more than 45 days, but there were reasons for that. We had over 50 resumes that we've looked at. We narrowed it down in our subcommittee to 5. We did interviews, and we have narrowed it down substantially, and by next meeting, the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund Subcommittee will present a recommendation to the board for the hiring of the jail liaison position. So we will be able to do that at the next meeting. And this is an incredibly important position. It has taken us long. We understand that. There's a lot of reasons for that. And we have slogged through an awful lot of problems to get to this point. And we are really excited because all of the people that we have considered were wonderful. And we just need to have one more meeting to narrow it down to that one person and to make the recommendation. So at the March meeting, that will be done. So there's good thing that we've done, all right? I am also going to provide, as soon as I find my glasses, I'm sorry. I've gotten substantially older. I give the normal stats for the jail, just so that everybody has them. I really have to thank the person who prepared these, who is on paternity leave, and despite the fact that he has a newborn baby at home, was able to send these to me, and he should be spending that time with his baby. So the status of the jail population as of 4:30 p.m. on January 31st was as follows. There were 1,392 people in the Allegheny County Jail and 150 in alternative housing facilities. That excludes people with holds by the federal government. And you should be aware the people in the jail are there for multiple reasons, such as probation and parole detainers, other county holds, or sentences. 6% of people in the jail itself, 83 people, are serving a county sentence as a result of a new conviction. 24% of people in alternative housing are serving a county sentence. So that's 36 out of 100. 20% of people in the jail, that's 272, had a hold from an external jurisdiction, including other counties or the state prison. No individual in alternative housing has a hold from another jurisdiction. 42%, or 591 people in the jail, were detained by Allegheny County Probation. These individuals were detained for violating probation on a crime for which they had previously been convicted. Of those 591 people, 88%, or 519, were of moderate or high risk to reoffend based on their probation proxy risk score. The remainder were being held for a variety of reasons, including violent felonies, awaiting mental health commitments or service plans, and other reasons related to their own safety or the safety of the community. 25% of the people in alternative housing, that is 37 of 150 people, were detained by adult probation. 31% of those 37 people were detained they were of moderate or high risk based on their proxy score. 27% of people in the jail itself are held pretrial only. That's 375 people, meaning they had no other reasons such as external holds or detainers keeping them in jail. Of these people, approximately 3% only screened as low risk for reoffense based on Allegheny County's locally validated pretrial risk instrument. 17%, 25 of 150 people in alternative housing, were held pretrial only. And again, only 2 of those people screened as low risk for reoffense. 72 individuals, approximately 5% of the jail population, are currently being held in the Allegheny County Jail pretrial on monetary bonds. Of these, only 5 screened as low risk for new criminal activity, and all of these individuals were facing violent charges. Only 3 of 150 people in alternative housing are held pretrial only on monetary bonds, and none screened as low risk, and each was facing a violent charge. All pretrial monetary bond cases are reviewed for possible bail modification. That happens on every single one of those cases. The Allegheny County population, again for historical purposes, on March 16th, 2022, which is the day before the world changed, was 2,075, including 1,859 in the jail itself and 216 in alternative housing. Again, we're down to 1,392, which is a 25% decrease since that time. The alternative housing population decrease was 31% over that course of time. Detainer population in the jail on March 16th, 2020 was 889. It's currently 591, so there is a 34% decrease in the detainer population. So those are the numbers for the last month.
Thank you. As it relates to the NC, you have a question?
Yeah, Judge Lazara, I know we had talked before, can we get this ahead of time, this information, so we can review it before?
I'm trying. I told you, he's on paternity leave. I literally got it before we came here for our prior meeting. So, I mean, if I can get it earlier, I will get it to you earlier.
Okay.
But if I don't get it earlier, I can't get it to you earlier.
All right, maybe when he comes back or something, I don't know if we
He's
could.
not back till May, and I thought somebody else was going to take care of that job for him, but I got it from him in an email. So I will make sure that as soon as I get it, I send it out.
Yeah, please, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Corey O'Connor?
Yeah, Judge, just 3 old business, I'll go quick. 2 are about the liaison. We sent email about the memorandum of understanding to everybody, a draft. So if everybody on the board could look at that and give us some edits on that, because that'll enable the liaison to do their job a lot more effectively. And then with the liaison, we also sent around exit interviews. So we want this person to be our eyes and ears. Look at that draft and please get that information back to us if there are any changes or tweaks. Anybody wants to know. The last one, I'll bring it up now because it was mentioned public comment. We did send out a draft as well to the board. We would hopefully do this next month about sending somebody what defines an emergency. We drafted that, sent it around. So if we can get we sent it out last week. We sent it to all board members, but we'll resend it. We have some edits ourselves. We have some edits that we have to do ourselves internally, but those 3 things will be coming out, just old business that I'd like everybody to follow up. Hopefully we can solve that by March. So thank you.
As far as the update regarding the NCCHC report, I've spoken with the county manager's office. They have a tentative date of the next board meeting to have an executive session to discuss the reports prior to the meeting. So they're in communication with the parties that prepared the report, and it looks like we're going to have an executive session regarding those reports next meeting. I'm sorry?
Wait,
the suicide prevention report is out, but it's the other report that we're going to discuss.
The death investigation report, is that what we're talking about?
What we're talking about.
Okay.
So.
I have something from old business too. I just want to say I had asked in a previous meeting, but I intend to introduce the incarcerated worker pay motion next month. I haven't heard any complaints from anyone. I had asked before if anyone had any issues with the bill. None of the board members sent any over, so I'm going to assume no one has any issues with paying incarcerated workers. So I'm going to give it another month for anybody to respond and tell me if there's any specific questions you'd like answered so that we can have a subcommittee meeting to discuss it, but I'd like to have any concerns ahead of time.
Did you send out the writing of that?
It is literally, we're going to pay them minimum wage for everyone who works in the jail. Well, if you tell me what you'd like written up, I will.
I just thought, I thought we were going to look at a motion, that's all. And I was wondering if I missed it in my email because we get 7 million.
No, I mean, I can write it up, but it's really just we would add an employee category and pay them whatever the minimum wage is in Pennsylvania. So any concerns that you have, please send to me before the March meeting.
New business, Gail Moss.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion for a member of the Oversight Board be on the book review committee. So that's my motion.
I'll second that. And to clarify, this is the jail's book review committee.
the jail's
Sure.
book review.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
I actually had a question. Our subcommittee that we have, do they ever meet with the jail book committee?
No, that's the problem.
Yeah, no, I know that you'll be on it. I assume we're nominating you.
Yeah, but I have already kind of talked to them, and I want to talk to the committee about having inclusion with one of their members so we can have them at our meetings to ask questions.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, not just us. Why does the boards not meet regularly or quarterly?
Yeah, we're going to do that.
So you're going to make
But I have
that
to get
when
the
you get
motion
on the
back.
motion. Okay, got it. Yeah, that was my concern that they don't meet.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're going to meet. And they will be meeting with us when we need them to.
Any other discussion?
Would you accept a friendly amendment to nominate you?
That was nice.
Okay.
Well, I mean that it would be you that would be the person that would serve?
I'll second that amendment.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And she has to accept it also on
I
her.
accept.
Okay, thanks.
All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Can we take a 2-minute break before we start the warden's report?
Your Honor, could I put either idea for consensus or entertain a possible motion? You mentioned that we're having a healthcare executive session before next month's meeting. I would ask that we try to have the kind of conventional executive sessions that we've had before, where I think we've gotten some work done that's been helpful toward the board. I don't know if this needs to be a motion or consensus. I think one of the dynamics was we struggled by having everyone in the same room. I'd also, if I amend myself, say something that we try to make it as digital and as easy to be attend for board members to talk about the issues before we attend here.
Right, I agree.
That's fine. That's something that I can send out an invite and see if we can set that up.
That'd be great.
There will still be an executive session regarding the NCC.
That wasn't to substitute it. That was supposed to be in addition to.
Okay, sure. All right, we'll take a 2-minute break. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right, thank you.
Well, we need to have discussion in these meetings. All we do is we're like talking to the public as opposed to talking amongst each other.
Yeah, but some of the stuff we can do.
Right, but we Oh, yeah, he does.
This is who I was talking
All
to.
right.
You were the one I was talking to outside.
We'll now have the warden's report.
Somebody, I don't know nobody with masks.
Damon.
No, there she is. She's
Miss Damon.
from Penn.
All right, we're going to have the warden's report. Warden.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
First thing I want to talk about is reentry services at Allegheny County Jail. and the Reentry Center held a week-long renovation, repair, and painting training class during the week of January the 23rd to the 27th. 13 individuals participated in this training and earned certification, which qualified them to work for companies that renovate older homes to bring them into compliance with current EAP standards. This is a valuable training, particularly in Allegheny County, where we have a number of older homes in need of renovation. Certification in these skills, along with the lead and asbestos removal classes previously offered, open many opportunities to work in the construction and renovation industry, where there remains a great need for this trained workforce. The latest set of reentry classes concluded on December the 30th, as 147 individuals completed either the parenting or Thinking for Change classes. Thinking for Change is an evidence-based program that includes structured cognitive behavior treatment designed to help clients manage stress and develop new ways of thinking. The current cycle of reentry classes began on January 9th and goes for 6 weeks. All incarcerated individuals are eligible to take the classes based on availability, and classes are taught by instructors from Pittsburgh Mercy Health Systems. MA programs. Our MA program department is again facilitating voting access for this spring's special election. The department placed a facility notice on the tablets and posters on the housing units to inform incarcerated individuals who reside in Pennsylvania State Districts 32, 34, and 35 about the upcoming special election and how to register, how to request an absentee ballot. For this election, 5 incarcerated individuals requested to vote, 3 of whom were eligible. 2 of those were previously registered, and 1 was a new applicant. This information will again be provided as we near the dates of the May municipal primary. Last month, members of the GLB asked if information regarding voting rights and procedures is permanently on the tablets. The video we placed on the tablets last fall remains accessible to the incarcerated population on the tablets and fully outlines their voting rights and procedures for registering and/or requesting an absentee ballot. Reintegrative services. During January, the jail transferred 53 individuals to alternative housing, and 20 individuals were released to inpatient treatment through the diversion program. A total of 105 individuals were assisted in completing medical assistant applications to ensure that they have health insurance upon release from the facility. Training. A total of 434 staff members have completed training in verbal de-escalation and interpersonal communication through our partners with the Department of Human Services. Trainings are ongoing. Our chaplaincy department. The chaplains department have begun preparation for Ramadan, which begins in late March. With more than 300 Muslim inmates, this takes a tremendous amount of teamwork, planning, and coordination with multiple departments to make this religious observation possible. I would now like to turn it over to Reverend Howe to explain a little bit more about how this process works.
Good evening. I'll be brief. Each year, chaplaincy facilitates Ramadan fasting for our Muslim individuals who observe the fast. It begins this year at sundown on March 22nd and ends at sundown on April 21st. Last year, we had approximately 180 individuals who participated in the fast. We expect similar participation numbers this year as well. As of yesterday, we had around 300 individuals who have self-identified as Muslim, and not all choose to participate in that fast. We send out applications to the pods for all Muslim individuals to send back, just so we know if it's their intent to fast or not, just so we can gauge participation. We work closely with the medical department, who screens participants to determine if it's medically advisable for them to participate in the fast. And if an individual is not advised to participate for medical reasons, they are still allowed to participate as long as they sign off that they understand they've been medically advised not to fast. During the fast, observing individuals refrain from eating from sunrise to sunset, and so arrangements are made with food service to deliver double dinner trays to observant individuals, as well as something called a sahur bag. Sahur is the name of the meal eaten before sunrise in order to prepare for the day of fasting. These include food items that can be kept in the cell and eaten before sunrise.
Thank you.
Pre-release services. The Foundation of Hope pre-release program added programming services to the general population's women's housing unit in January. Classes include addiction and recovery, anger management, confronting stinking thinking, life skills, parenting, release and integration, and spiritual formation, 12-step programs, and yoga. Each class is optional, and there are currently 32 women participating in the class being held on the housing unit. The 12-step program began yesterday in the chapel, and 24 women signed up to participate. Discharge and Release Center. The Discharge and Release Center assessed 123 individuals in January. It gave out 16 boxes of Narcan, 159 bus passes, as individuals are allowed up to 2 bus passes per person. The Discharge and Release Center made 10 referrals to employee assistance, 9 for food service and Hope aftercare services, and 6 for trauma and counseling services. Visits. We are examining ways to safely bring back contact visits, beginning with our incarcerated juvenile population. We are working with our partners from Allegheny Health Network and the Health Department on a plan of actions so that this contact visits can begin as soon as possible for our juvenile population. The kitchen. We understand that the kitchen remains an area of concern for the public and the JOB. And so I would like to turn it over to Deputy Tuma for some additional information.
So part of ACJ's continual improvement, we are evaluating the kitchen operation. Some of the corrective actions plan we have put together in conjunction with the Allegheny County Health Department in a review of that action plan to address the concerns of the Jail Oversight Board and the community comments. We've assigned a captain and a sergeant to the kitchen as we develop new job descriptions and begin the hiring process for a food service manager and a food service supervisor. The captain and the sergeant are responsible for the oversight of the cleaning, pest mitigation, and overall operations of the cleanliness of that area as we work on these job descriptions and hopefully get them filled in the near future. Additionally, along with the health department, we evaluated the extermination plan. We have contracted to have the food service area as well as areas in which food is stored to be serviced by a separate extermination company with a heavy-duty extermination plan to begin with a full mitigation plan, which would include a detailed mechanical and chemical cleaning of that area, followed by a deep clean by an external company to address anything that first extermination contained, and then doubling down on the extermination per the plan for the next coming weeks after that initial mitigation, and then continue with that company. And again, they would be handling anywhere where food is prepared, food is served, as well as where food is stored. We are also, and as I mentioned, that cleaning company will be coming in to address any issues that result from that extermination. This is the corrective action plan discussed with the health department, and we continue to work with them as we evaluate any concerns or any issues that are brought up.
I would also like to announce our Employee of the Month for January, and its records clerk, Amanda Kipta. Now we'll turn it over to Chief Deputy Warden Beeson.
I have a question for you, Tom. What did you say you're trying to hire food manager or food service?
Yeah, so we are working with the health department to develop 2 job descriptions, one for a food service manager. It's a working job title. The job has not been posted yet, and a food service supervisors. This would provide 24/7 coverage in those areas. This person would be responsible for contract compliance, not only of the kitchen food service, but the extermination, so they'll be able to go around to make sure continually that those are the issues. We have been reviewing, like I said, with the health department, all of our reports, and some of them aren't something that can be addressed by exterminator in a one picture, right?
Yeah, okay.
So they would be able to go in continually and evaluate all those things on a continual basis. They would also be overseeing the commissary contract as well, because they also have an area which food is stored, so we would want to ensure that that area meets the, extermination, cleanliness, so that is being handled as well. So
the people that you're looking for the manager or the server, are those jobs posted?
we are still working on those job descriptions. We hope to have them posted very soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Warden. Good evening, Board. Good evening. Under staffing, since the last board meeting, there's been no recent promotions in jail operations. Our current cadet class is scheduled to graduate tomorrow, Friday, February 3rd. Physical agility testing, was completed over the past several weeks. We had 61 scheduled to participate. Of those, we had facility. Of the 32 that participated, 21 were moved to the next phase of the hiring process. State transfers, we currently have 16 males, 1 females with 300 Bs in the facility, 3 males with detainers, and 6 males with open cases. The longest wait time on a 300B was received on January 13th, and the shortest wait time is from January 25th. And we have 3 scheduled transport dates for February that will exhaust everybody that we currently had waiting on a 300B for transport. I ran those numbers yesterday, so if we received more today, they were not reflected in those numbers. And the use of force numbers for January 2023 were 31. I'll pass it off to Deputy Warden Toma to continue.
In regards to books, we're continuing to work with the Department of Information and Technology on our web portal for that we can receive receipts so we can address this continuing issue when deliveries are not received with receipts. We are still working with incarcerated individuals to try to mitigate that problem on a test basis to work out the details on what information needs to be in this web portal. So those are meetings, so Ms. Mascio will be part of that. And we have not received any new books that have been brought to the Book Review Committee for content evaluation. Status of food RFP, final revisions by the jail have been completed and will be submitted to purchasing and legal for review. Hopefully it will be posted by next week if it can meet the publication deadline. And I pass it off to Dr. Brinkman for her report.
All right, good evening. In regards to COVID-19 and our updates, for our incarcerated individuals, there are 5 incarcerated individuals presently positive in the facility with 0 hospitalized. The total amount of the incarcerated individuals tested during January was 1,440. Of those, 25 or 1.7% were found to be positive. Employees at the end of January, throughout the pandemic, we had 340 staff report positive results. And currently, 558 or 38% of our incarcerated individuals have been vaccinated with the full series. We continue to run our vaccine clinics on a rolling basis. For medications for opioid use disorder and the expansion of efforts, our continuation of medication-assisted treatments include the following for January. There were 15 individuals prescribed oral naltrexone, with 2 individuals receiving Vivitrol injections prior to community release. 82 individuals were treated with Suboxone and 12 with Sublocade. Of these, 5 patients were transitioned from Suboxone to Sublocade to support their recovery. And methadone continuation services have treated 15 individuals with 17 current patients. Related to Torrance commitments and admissions, during the month of January, 5 were admitted and transferred to Torrance State Hospital. 11 were committed to Torrance State Hospital. 2 had their commitments for competency restoration rescinded due to clinical stabilization. And currently, 26 are awaiting Torrance admission, with the longest waiting since October 7th of 2022. For Tiers 4 and 5 mental health data, in the month of January, we had 9 individuals identified as Tier 5 and 12 unique individuals identified as Tier 4. As of this afternoon, our current wait times for our non-emergent healthcare requests, our sick call for medical queue had 65 with the longest waiting 6 days. Our sick call for mental health had 6 with the longest waiting 2 days. Our psychiatrists have 69 with the longest waiting 14 days. And our mental health specialists have 12 with the longest waiting 2 days. For our healthcare successes, in conjunction with our AHN partner, we have onboarded our first addictions medicine advanced practice provider. I had announced that earlier in 2022 that we expanded that with AHN. We're incredibly excited about this addition to the team. Not only does it dedicate additional resources to a very vulnerable population, but it does relieve some strain on the remainder of the system and allowing some of our team members to return to the primary care services that they were providing prior to starting those initiation of MAT services. Other operational adjustments, such as the expansion of the interdisciplinary teams, has provided relief on those strained resources in a way that primary care patient visits have been able to increase 16% this month alone. Related to new business, we have been receiving a variety of questions regarding healthcare staffing. And after reviewing how the staffing report goes through the warden's report and the complement each month, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to be updating that in the future because currently it only reflects the county positions. It doesn't reflect what's supplemented by our agency contracts. So it definitely looks different than what is happening inside the building. And to support recruitment efforts, we have additionally begun cross-promoting our AHN positions on the jail's website for those who might be looking for that kind of work. So should you have interest, you're welcome to explore those positions by navigating to joinacj.com. Shameless plug, I'm sorry.
Forgive me, but I missed the stat with the 16%. I forgot, I missed that.
Our primary care visits have increased about 15 or 16%.
What does that mean?
It means that the visits for managing chronic care conditions, routine medical provider patient requests, things like that, that our providers are responding to.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we are prepared for any questions that the board may have.
Ms. Hallam, do you have any questions?
Oh, yeah, thanks, I can start. So the first thing was, we usually, we got in our email a report about the NCCHC suicide update report, and I was just wondering why it was missing from the reports that Jens presented today. Are we not presenting on that?
I sent you guys a copy of the report for you guys to review, and we are prepared to discuss some of the findings with you today, but if you have any questions.
No, I mean, I'd just like to hear what you want to discuss about it.
We would like to address any questions that you may have.
Okay, sure. So what findings of the report were most shocking to you?
I would just like to say that if you really look at the report, you will see that NCCHC complimented us for calling them back to do an assessment as to our abatement to their recommendations. So they were really surprised to have an agency call them back to review our abatements. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, they really complimented us on everything that we've done to try to satisfy all of their recommendations. So I was really pleased to hear that they were satisfied with all of the work that we did.
And so were you surprised that they were pleased with it? Because what I was asking was, what in the report were you most surprised to read about?
I was really pleased to hear that they have never heard of an agency calling them back for a review, as I stated before, and I was really pleased about the positive comments that they made in the report.
Okay. Next question is, and I have a few. So I want to start with, we talked a little bit in public comments, we heard about the solitary confinement ban. And so I know, because we've heard from people whose children are in solitary right now, I was wondering under what circumstances currently is the jail prohibiting solitary confinement? So under what situations will solitary confinement be prohibited?
I don't understand the question, Ms. Hunt.
So we know what the law says, the solitary confinement ban that was passed, and we know that the jail isn't necessarily following what's prohibited in the solitary confinement ban. So I'm wondering, what does the jail view as being prohibited in regards to solitary confinement in the jail?
I still don't understand.
Can you just put anybody in solitary confinement anytime you want, for any length of time, for whatever reason?
They're issued a misconduct, and they're moved to a disciplinary housing unit.
Okay.
Within 10 business days, they're given a misconduct hearing.
Is there anyone who is in solitary confinement, RHU, that has not received a hearing within 10 days?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yes, please don't speak out.
I just heard from some folks tonight who said that their loved ones were in RHU or solitary confinement and had not been given a hearing.
I heard the same thing.
Okay, are you going to look into that?
I can.
Okay, thank you. But I guess what my question is, what is your understanding of the restrictions to put somebody on solitary confinement? Can you put somebody in solitary confinement for, let's say, 50 days?
When we have the misconduct hearing based on the charges that we have, sanctions are then levied as we give guilty verdicts.
And you understand that those exceptions don't exist under the law of the solitary confinement ban?
We still have to give them 4 hours of out of cell time.
Correct. So what I'm talking about is solitary confinement, which is less than 4 hours of out of cell time.
I understand what you're asking.
Right. So in what situations are you currently putting people in solitary confinement? In what situations are you currently not allowing 4 hours out of cell time a day?
Make every effort to get people 4 hours of out of cell time every day.
And does everyone receive 4 hours out of cell time every day?
When the facility is not under lockdown for security, safety reasons,
Okay, so if it's not under lockdown, there is not a single person in the jail who isn't getting at least 4 hours out of cell a day.
we have the report that comes out the 5th of every month. That
Correct.
details if somebody did not get the 4 hours of out of cell time. So I can't say that nobody.
We are getting there. So what I'm asking is, so we get that report, I'm asking what reasons you think are allowable to put people on that report, to put somebody in solitary confinement.
I mean, other than medical tier 4s and 5s, we don't have, I mean, protective custody, I believe, is in there. I don't have the referendum in front of me, but.
Right, so I mean, I could tell you what they are, what the exceptions are, because we just keep hearing every month, and it seems, and I see the report that's put out every month. You're right, it is always put out on time, and I do appreciate that. But it seems that the jail is interpreting the solitary confinement ban and the exceptions to it in a way that is different than what is actually listed in the ordinance. So that's why I'm asking what your policy is for people to not be allowed out of their cell at least 4 hours a day. Who is it happening to?
I said for the exceptions, tier 4s, 5s, anybody that checks into protective custody, administrative custody for those types of individuals.
Okay, and is tier 4 and 5 listed as an exception in the solitary confinement ban ordinance?
It's under a medical exception. They're under the care of a provider. They're not safe to be around other individuals outside of their cells.
And you're listing them, and what are you listing as the reason for them being in solitary confinement on your report?
I believe it's medical. In the report.
Okay, and so outside of them, you're saying the only people who are in solitary are in there of their own volition. They requested protective custody.
Well, up until December 12th of last year, we had the whole facility on a modified lockdown because of COVID mitigation efforts.
Right, but now we don't.
We've resumed full recreation. So anybody that's on disciplinary housing, we make every effort to get them the required 4 hours out of cell.
Right, but the law doesn't say make every effort. The law says these are the only instances in which you're allowed to keep somebody in their cell for more than 20 hours a day.
Alan, we put procedures in place to even if we have to run it into the evening shifts to get that done. So
That's cool, because that was my next question. Since the referendum has been instituted and is the law of the land of Allegheny County, what changes has the jail administration made to ensure compliance with it?
well, one of the, like I just mentioned, we run it into the supplemental shifts past the normal out of cell time, just to make sure that the folks get out of cell, okay? Especially during the winter months, we can't use our outdoor recreation spaces because of inclement weather. So then we have limited spaces on the inside of the facility where it's not 10 degrees, right? So we have to extend the duration that we have for recreation.
Okay, so everyone is getting 4 hours outside of their cell a day, with the exception of Tier 4 or 5, mental health, administrative, and protective custody.
Unless it would be detailed in that report that comes out on the 5th and the reasons why.
Right, and so the reasons that are on that report, what do you see them as? Like, what do you think is allowed to be listed on that report?
Safety and security, medical.
And what do you define as safety and security and medical?
Lockdowns for shakedowns, building searches. Medical is, I could defer to Dr. Brinkman to expand on that if she wants.
Okay, and the people that we heard from today who said that their sons were in solitary confinement, were they in there for a medical reason, a lockdown, a building search, or what? What? Can you speak to that? We heard tonight from 2 different mothers who said that their sons were in solitary confinement in the ACJ right now, and I'm just wondering if you could speak to which of those reasons that you just listed are the reason why they are in solitary confinement.
We just heard them speak an hour ago. We can look into those situations.
Okay, and you're going to report back next month?
Sure.
Cool. Okay, my next question is about the food service manager and supervisor that you brought up. So now, we heard somebody read from the contract for the current food service provider earlier, and it specifically listed that these should be positions that are provided by the food service provider, that they are going to supervise the food service area.
So these positions are not overseeing the production of the food. They're more in line with actually the food and safety positions that the Allegheny County Health Department has, which they're inspectors, as well as the same position that is at Kane that they have for a food service supervisor. So they're overseeing, so the manager would oversee development of training programs, development of training materials, so that the vendors have that so they can provide the training to their staff to understand the equipment, making sure the equipment is up and operational, that is, Allegheny County owned equipment. They're also overseeing the extermination contract and the areas that those execution of those other contracts are being taken care of. Additionally, there are contract requirements of the food service provider outlined in the contract on the RFP to include certain reports they have to have, certain actions they have to do. They would also be the ones who would be overseeing the invoicing and all of those other parts that require subject matter experts to be reviewing. So we currently don't have that, so these 2 positions are being developed to provide that oversight for the jail.
And do the food contract overseers, the food, who oversees the production of it, are they under the oversight of the food service manager and supervisor?
I don't understand the question.
So the people who are sent there from, currently it's Summit, the people who are sent there from Summit, are they overseen by these 2 positions?
No, but Food Summit provides their own food director and those management positions to manage their own staff.
Right, and there's no overseeing from the jail of those positions?
Currently there is, but it's through operations. So this would be providing people that have more intimate knowledge of those areas so we can, again, address the corrective action plan we put together in consultation with the health department, reviewing past history so that we're more proactive on these, having these areas and the concerns that have been brought up more timely addressed through, subject matter experts in those fields.
Okay, and in these positions, who do they report to?
These positions, we have not, since they have not been posted and they have not been finalized, we are still developing the organizational as to who they would report to.
Can you, when the job descriptions are finalized before they're posted, can you send them to the board?
Before they're finalized, well, they would be.
When they're finalized, before they're posted, can you send them to the board?
The finalization is done by HR, so that's not my department to be able to tell them to send you them.
Okay, so you won't see them?
we give our recommendations, we give our duties and responsibilities and all those details, but there are some other matters that the Human Resource Department does add to ensure that it conforms to other aspects of Allegheny County's policies and procedures. So they are the final ones who review it and post the job description.
Okay, then how about when your part is finalized, can you send it to us? We'll understand it's not the final job description, but just so that we have whatever you have.
So you want a draft version?
Please, yes, that would be great. If that's all that you'll ever have, I will take that.
I will look into it.
Anyone? Not look into it, you'll give it to us.
We typically do not hand over draft documents.
But I'm specifically asking for it as a member of the jail board, to send to the full board, please.
Ms. Holland, we will look into it, ma'am. We'll get back to you about that.
Thanks, guys. All right. Next question is about, we mentioned the tiers of the mental health, and I just wanted to clarify when we're talking about it. One thing that keeps coming back into my head is about like what rec looks like for tier 3 folks, and I don't know who wants to answer that, but we talked about 4 and 5. So folks who are on the tier 3, what does their recreation look like?
What aspect of it are you asking
Like
about?
they're out of cell time. What does that look like for them?
They're not restricted in any time limit. Is that what are you asking about, time limits or?
In general, how long is it? What does it look like? What are they able to do? What are they not able to do?
They're offered the same amount of out of cell time as anyone else. So it's no different than other areas of the jail. And in terms of what they do, they are able to interact with each other. They're able to use the television, all of the amenities that everybody else does.
Okay, so it looks like regular rec on any pod. It's like, it's not that they're in one of those cages, the human-sized cage things, that I've seen people in. It's not that they're chained to a table or anything. They're free reigning throughout the pod.
I don't believe so. I don't believe that they are. I've never seen that.
You've never seen when you go?
I've never seen that for the tier 3s is what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So they're just walking around the pod, it's regular?
Correct.
It's the same as everyone else's. Okay. It was mentioned about the Ramadan observances, and so I wanted to ask specifically, I know it had been brought up about communal prayer. Has there been a solution figured out for communal prayer for those who observe a Muslim faith?
Yeah, we're currently still putting back together our services. There are still prayer services on Fridays via video. We have an imam who goes to the pods and also does prayer and talim with the inmates. We've got some new volunteer Muslim spiritual advisors who are coming in as well to help with prayer, and we do have some prayer times in the chapel as well.
Communal prayer?
Yes.
Okay, so you're facilitating that?
Yes.
Okay, and then also along those lines, so you talked about the plan for folks celebrating or observing Ramadan, and so what about folks who are admitted to the jail between now and the beginning of Ramadan? What about folks who are admitted to the jail during Ramadan? Are you putting like a time limit on people being able to set up for the fast, to sign up?
No, we do a lot of prep work ahead of time, but then as people are admitted into the facility, we work with them to get them medically cleared and on the list for the trays and everything as well.
And how long does it take from the time somebody's admitted to the jail till the time that they will be afforded the opportunity to observe?
My office tries to get that done within, a business day.
Okay, so within a business day of them coming into the jail. Okay. And then the other question, I don't know if this isn't really a question for you. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
I
good.
can sit back down.
Thanks. But a question like along those lines is I appreciate that the Reverend comes to these meetings and answers questions. But what I want to know is like how that happens. Sometimes we have a DHS presentation. Sometimes we have a Reverend coming and presenting. But like there's a lot of people that we have asked to hear from, specifically the medical director, specifically the commissary company, specifically the food service company. We've asked for a lot of people to come here, and so I'm wondering who invites the Reverend, who invites DHS when we get those presentations. Is that something you're doing?
every time the board asks for somebody to report to the Jail Oversight Board, we ask them, and if they decide to come, we allow them to come. But we knew that we were going to be asked questions about, Ramadan, so I asked Reverend Howell to appear to answer any questions pertaining to Ramadan. DHS with the jail redesign, they have the RFP, so that's why we asked them to come and do the presentation for, the jail redesign.
So there's been a lot of questions specifically about medical treatment, and I know in multiple meetings we have asked for the medical director to come here. So are you saying that the medical director is refusing to come to the jail board meetings?
I'm saying that AHN has not, it hasn't been approved for him to come yet.
What is the holdup on that? Because this isn't recent that we started asking for this.
AHN had mentioned that if there are things that you would want answered, if you could submit them in writing, then we can work with AHN to get the most appropriate answers.
Okay, is there a reason that they won't come to this meeting?
I don't know that there is a reason.
But they have said no, they won't come?
They have asked that any questions be submitted in writing in advance.
And then they will come here and present it to us?
They would want to review what the questions are. That's as far as it's gotten.
Okay, and then what about Oasis and Summit specifically? I know Oasis is a new commissary company. Have they been asked to come here?
I don't believe we've been asked for the commissary company to come as a new vendor, but I'll be happy to ask them if they would.
Yeah, sure, because I know we had asked Summit many times, and they have refused. And so I'm wondering, I guess if it hasn't been asked yet, since they are a new vendor, I'll ask now if Oasis can come and just talk with us about the commissary providers, maybe go over their menu with us, just have some conversations about it.
We will make the ask.
Okay, and then what about Summit? Is there any update on them coming to talk to us?
I think, Judge, did you have a conversation with Summit?
Summit did not refuse to come. It was not a fair process if they were to come during the RFP. So we instructed them not to come because we didn't want to give one bidder an advantage over another. So it wasn't wise for them to come during the process.
And is that RFP process over?
I don't know.
Is the RFP process for food service still ongoing?
We're planning on posting, so yeah, the process is ongoing. So we hope to have, like I mentioned earlier, we've submitted our final recommendations. It's gone to purchasing and legal for final review. We hope to have it up, so therefore it will be initiated. Any delay in putting it out will then just extend the current contract if we can't get that RFP up. So.
Right, what is the delay?
If we do not post the RFP, like if you're asking Summit to come in because the RFP is not posted now, that's just going to further delay us posting an RFP.
Okay, I don't think that argument makes very much sense. But so can you send us the RFP?
When it is finalized, I'll send it just like we sent the last one.
Right, but you said that you just sent over your recommendations. Can we see what you have so far?
That is not the final version, and we do not have the final copy of it.
All right, cool. Okay, so we had talked at the last meeting, if you remember, we decided to do the commissary motions only once a quarter because you told us that it would make the money get on their books faster each month, $125. Yet as of earlier this week, they still don't have their January money, so it's actually even later than it was last time.
It always takes a while when we have to do the process. The first month is the entire process. So now, every subsequent month, we do not have to go through the same extensive process. Like the invoice to have this month is already completed and will be submitted through our normal purchasing practice as opposed to having to go through 5 levels of approval.
But why has it never taken this long before? I think last month was the first month where it ever took that long.
If you review the minutes from December and prior to that, it took just as long in prior months.
No, I actually know for a fact that it didn't. 2.5 weeks was the average time. I actually have looked through the minutes. Never a whole month. We approved it at the January meeting. We're at the February meeting, and they still haven't gotten their January money.
They have gotten their January money.
Was it yesterday?
I would have to go and look, but the money has been posted.
Okay, so this week the money was posted?
Yeah, the money was posted.
Okay, so then I will backtrack. Until a couple days before the next meeting, it took the entire month for them to get the money. So I'm just concerned if we're doing this once a quarter, there's going to be 4 meetings There are 4 months where they have to wait a whole month until their money comes. Is anybody concerned about that?
I thought that it wasn't going to happen like that.
It wasn't supposed to happen like that. That's why I'm
I thought
concerned.
that it was after the first initial thing, then it would come automatically. Is that what you're saying?
That's what
Yeah,
she's saying.
So now, since we don't have to do a motion, I don't have to do an executive action,
Right.
I don't have to do all the steps required.
Right.
I am able to submit the invoice as of the 1st. So we got
So
the,
they'll get it quicker.
So, but every quarter we have to do it. So every 4 times a year, they're going to wait a whole extra month for it.
Yeah, because they can't go through before that.
Yeah, it's just never, ever taken this long before.
So it was quicker monthly.
Yeah, because now we have people who are leaving the jail between the January meeting and the February meeting who were approved to get these funds who aren't getting them. Exactly. So does anyone have any solutions for what we can do? Because I'm just very concerned that that's a whole month's worth of people who have left the jail without funding that we approved to give them.
I mean, there'd always be people coming and going that wouldn't make the money. I mean, we make the motion until they go through the process. There's people leaving every day. So you're always going to have people who were approved to get it and left in the time in between. That doesn't change.
No, not if we make an approval in perpetuity. Once a month, they get the money. Then according to what I'm hearing now, this would never happen again. There would never be a hang-up again because just on the 1st of the month, no executive action would need to be taken. I just heard that.
You might be able to make it an annual one, but to be in perpetuity, I don't know that we could.
Sure, annually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll prepare that motion for next meeting. If no one has any objections, I'd like to do it that we approve it for a full year ahead of time and they get it on the 1st of the
I would
month.
just like to check with the law department budget before we say annual as opposed to maybe 6 months. But I do think doing it less often would allow them to get their money quicker, which was the whole purpose of last time, which is what we heard. So I just, before we say annual, I'd like to speak to the budget officer and everything to make sure, maybe 6 months or maybe annual. But I think the goal is to try to do it less often so they can get their money quicker.
Yeah, and the money, remember, comes from the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund. So the other question I have, speaking of like getting opinions from the law department, I would like to formally request in writing that we get a legal opinion from the county solicitor's office about whether or not, I want this in writing, not like these little secret executive sessions that we have where we talk about things that should be talked about here. But I want to hear about whether the county believes that the jail is in compliance with the solitary confinement ban. And I would like a legal department, a legal opinion also about Mr. Pilarski's participation in these meetings as an illegal designee in conflict with the state statute that authorizes this jail board. So if Ian's could take that back to the legal department, I would like both of those legal opinions in writing. Thank you. The next thing is I was really concerned. There was a gentleman who was sitting over there a little earlier who spoke about bringing NA meetings into the jail. And so could somebody speak to like why the policy changed that folks were allowed to bring those meetings in pre-COVID and then once we resume meetings?
Ms. Howland, we're going to have to look into that. You know, we're just hearing about this as far as them being allowed in the past. So can we look into that and report back next month?
Yeah, please. Are you really going to report back about it next month? Because I know the Ians know about it because I saw the email that was sent to that man that he said he couldn't find. I saw that email listing all of the things that if you had any felonies, if you had ever been convicted of sex work, there was no time frame. It was just ever. And so I'm just wondering, did someone change a policy since March of 2020 about who could bring in outside meetings?
Again, Ms. Howland, I want to look and see if in the past they were allowed to come in with these charges, and I will report back as to if there was a change and what we can do going forward.
But I don't really need you to look into if it happens because we know it did, because that man had a felony conviction, used to take meetings into the jail, and has been told since COVID that he's not allowed to anymore. So I don't really need you to look into that. I'm just wondering why that happened.
We will look into it, Ms. Howland.
Cool. All right. So regarding MOUD, I appreciate the update. I appreciate that people are getting that. I think it's one of the most important things in the entire world. But I really want to know about induction. When are we going to start putting people on MOUD? We hear a lot that it's coming, but before you were here, we heard a lot by, I don't know if it was your predecessor or the person who sat in that seat before you, that this was coming, and it feels like years for it to happen. So I'm looking for a timeline for when we are going to start induction for MOUD. When are we going to start saying, hey, you came in off the street, not with a prescription, but using opioids, and we're going to start you on this medication?
Our first step to being able to develop that was onboarding our addictions specialist to APP to be able to be a part of that team and develop that program. So she's been with us for 2 weeks. So that's what we're working on, trying to figure out what this looks like. I don't have a timeline because we're assembling the team.
So there were no steps happening with induction prior to that person. That was the first step?
No, we were trying to figure out what kind of resources we would need to be able to support induction sustainably. So if we start a service, we want to make sure it's something we could sustain over time.
Cool. Can you bring that person to the next meeting so we can get to know them and hopefully work with them going forward?
We never bring other staff to this meeting.
There's lots of hands here.
Well, I mean, okay. I don't know what makes this any different than, all of our other staff that do not come to this meeting.
This is a very specific position that you yourself said is the first step in getting induction started in the jail. So I think it's an important person for us to meet. We are responsible not just for the health and safekeeping of the people who are incarcerated, but also the people who work there. I think it's important that we as the jail board have a relationship with them. So could you bring them to the next meeting? We'll get them on the agenda.
I will find out if AHN is comfortable with their staff coming.
Okay. So this is a person that is contracted through AHN?
Yes. All of our providers are contracted through AHN.
And what's their name?
I really don't feel comfortable sharing direct staff information here.
Why?
Because it's public record.
Who pays their salary?
We do.
Right. So it is public information, a public meeting. Mm-hmm. Can I just have their name so I can look up about them myself?
Her name is Tori Pipak.
I'm sorry, Tori? Mm-hmm. And how do you spell the last name?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't remember how to spell it.
Can you just say it, Pipak?
Yes.
Like with a P?
Yeah, and I'm afraid I'm saying it wrong. That's part of why.
That's part of why what?
I didn't want to say it wrong. I'm serious. I didn't want to say her name wrong.
Okay. All right. Next question is about, we had been told that we were going to be provided menu substitutions whenever they happen in the kitchen, and I just didn't see them in our packet, or I didn't see an email about menu substitutions.
They're posted to the public website.
I know that, but I thought we were supposed to get them as well. I thought that was part of I knew that was part of the motion.
I don't remember that request or being part of the motion, but if it was so, we'll.
Okay, yeah, they're supposed to be included in our packet, so if you could give them to us so that I'm not having to refresh the website waiting for it to be posted. Okay, and the same with Allegheny County Health Department inspections. Have there been any of those in the past few months? Because we were supposed to receive any health department inspections.
So again, those are publicly available, but we will more than happy look at the website and forward you anything that is coming from the public website.
Again, it was a request from this board that we received both of those.
We will do the public
each
website
month.
search for you, Ms. Hallam.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next question is about the medical emergencies. I know Controller O'Connor has been really working hard on that. So I just wanted to see if there was any members of the board that have any things that they'd like to see included about hospital notifications, any questions that we had, so that we can get this motion, Controller O'Connor's motion, done next month.
Set the material he sent us.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to ask for you if anybody has any questions about that, or again, incarcerated worker pay. We really want to move this stuff along. So send any concerns along. Another thing is federal detainees being held in the jail. I had received a report that we were no longer accepting federal detainees in the jail, that either they weren't sending them to us anymore or we weren't accepting them. Can anybody speak to that? There was specifically a person that was supposed to be in the ACJ, but because he was a federal detainee, he was sent to Butler County Jail instead.
We accept federal prisoners.
And you're getting new ones at the same rate that you always have? There's no restrictions?
We are getting new federal prisoners.
Okay, and do you have the number on how many there are right now? I know that's not in Judge Lazara's population report. How many?
I didn't bring that with me.
Okay, that's fine.
I can put that as part of my report if that's.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I just want to keep track of it because I've been hearing that the feds have been like slowing down housing people in the jail, and I'm just kind of trying to track that. The other thing, had anybody, other members of the board, did you see the videos that were posted on YouTube? Did anybody watch that? Just you, Controller O'Connor? I think I'm going to send them to the full board and ask that either you watch them on your own or that we have a session, a working group that we come together and watch these videos. There was an incarcerated individual who posted these. I think they were referenced in one of the mother's public comments. Really heartbreaking recordings from inside the jail. And so I know that you all hear a lot, the public comments. I know we talk to people when we go inside the jail about what's going on, but there was a man experiencing a medical emergency and a corrections officer was ridiculing him. There was many other things that came out in these videos, and I just wanted to know, should I send them to you guys all? Would anyone on the board be interested in having a watch session together where we watch them together and go over what we're seeing? This is really our first look at what's really happening in the jail when they think no one's watching. Is anyone interested? You want to watch? Sheriff Krause, you want to watch? Judge Halsey, do you want to watch the videos together with us?
I already saw the videos.
You saw the videos? Okay. And what did you think?
I think that you should ask another question of these people if you have one, something we can discuss later.
I think this is part of our meeting. We're having discussion. Why is that not okay?
Do you have a question for the warden or for the chief deputy?
Yes. Did any of you all watch the videos that were posted to YouTube from inside a cell in the Allegheny County Jail? Warden Harper, did you see the videos?
I did.
Ms. Brinkman, Dr. Brinkman, did you see the videos?
I didn't watch them myself.
Okay, but you know of their existence, you just didn't see them yourself? Chief Deputy Beeson? But do you know of their existence? And have you heard anything of their content? Okay. Have you heard anything, Thelma?
Yes, I know of their existence, and yes, I did view some.
You viewed them? You saw some of them. Smith, did you see them? Do you know of their existence? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that like no one can say that they didn't know anything that was on the videos, so that as we bring it up and we try to address those situations, hopefully over the next few weeks, the next few meetings, I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to try to address what we're seeing, because I mean, I was crying watching it. It takes a lot to make me cry, and I was crying watching these videos. It was just devastating. I can't imagine the mother who said that she watched her son have a medical emergency. Like if that was my family member. So if there's any members of the board, I'll send out an email. You've seen them? No, okay, I will, I'll send them to you by email, but then also I will schedule for us all to watch together. I think that we can have kind of like a learning session and try to figure out solutions based off seeing that. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I think, then specifically, so we heard about an individual with sickle cell, and I'm really concerned about this because I have heard of, people die from that. And we've seen, again, one of the highest death rates in the entire nation in this jail. Excuse me, Judge Halsey, is something wrong?
Do you have a question? Do you have a question? Ask your question, please. You're not. No, I'm sorry. Only doing public comments. Do you have a question?
I do. Yeah.
Please limit your comments.
I was just confused what was happening over there. Okay, thank you. I'm just really concerned about what this board thinks that we can do to help improve empathy in the jail, to help improve medical treatment when someone's having a medical crisis or a mental health crisis. You guys, do you have any ideas? I'm trying to make this a more collaborative process instead of just us directing questions at them and not getting answers. Maybe we can kind of brainstorm together up here. What do you guys think we can do specifically for that situation, specifically for someone who has broken ribs and isn't getting an x-ray, who may have some internal issues that aren't being addressed? What are you guys thinking?
I am hopeful that the liaison can shed light onto this and bring us, information.
Yeah.
So that we can act on that. And, I would ask Well, I want to think about it before I answer.
I just want to ensure that this liaison position isn't, thank you. I want to just ensure that the liaison isn't, trying to put a barrier, this idea of a liaison, we shouldn't discuss things anymore just because we're hiring this position. This has been going on for a while, and after seeing it now with my own eyes, seeing somebody in a medical emergency and just being ignored in this video, after hearing, time after time family members coming here, what more can we do? I don't think it's just, let's let the liaison handle, because let's say the liaison goes to the jail, comes back saying the exact thing that all these other people said. Are you going to believe them, but we didn't believe the people who came here, who experienced it? That's my concern.
I am not saying I don't believe that the public comment, and I hope that was what.
Turn your mic on. I don't know if your mic is in.
I am not saying that I don't believe the public comment.
I believe that it has to be discussed. What we heard needs to go over. Everything we've heard here, we have to come together and talk about some of these things. And what are we going to do? How are we going to resolve? But I don't think just standing here now and say, what are we going to do? Because we have to discuss it.
That's what I'm trying to do.
We need to discuss it. I agree. I think a lot of things needs to be discussed and come up with some resolutions. But you got to take time to do that. I believe that has to happen.
And luckily, we're here once a month. The same day.
So you have to do it before the next month.
I think this is the place to do it. Instead of just barking questions, I think we should discuss.
You got to put together everything you heard. We heard a lot. Mm-hmm. So you have to sit down and go. I took notes, and then you go back and you try to see what these people need or why this thing happened. Whatever it was we talked about, we heard a lot of things that happened.
Right. I'm trying to make this meeting more of that.
You're not going to get an instant conversation on what we need to do right now, not right now, because you have to look at it. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to look at it, investigate, see why this happened, but you got to start somewhere. But you can't, it's not going to happen now, today, because you don't know all the...
Did you hear anything new today that you haven't heard in previous meetings?
I heard a few things new today.
Okay, what about the things that we hear every meeting? Whose job is that to discuss these things?
But if we never get to the point, all we do, we sit here and we ridicule and talk. We have to talk about it and make solutions.
I agree. That's what I'm trying to do right this second.
You cannot just badger people.
Agree.
Yeah, you have to look at the situation.
So let's look at the situation. That's what I'm asking to do right now. I would like to make this more discussion.
What I think we need to do.
Yes.
We need to talk about what was it. But you can't do it tonight. You just heard it. So you got to take this away and come back and have some resolution, or in the middle of the month, or contact people, find out, talk to them or something.
Okay, well, let's have a discussion about what we heard last month.
Let's ask a question of the people that present it, because that's typically the format of the meeting.
I know, and I think that these meetings have become very combative, and I'd like them to be more discussion-based so that we can actually accomplish some stuff. It doesn't, yes, so that's what I'm trying to do right now. This is the format.
No, this
Agree.
is not the format to have those discussions. If you have questions, ask the questions, please. If you don't have questions, then we can adjourn the meeting.
Why do you believe that this is not the format to have discussions about what we're learning in these meetings?
Questions of these people?
I have no more questions of them. I do have questions that I would like to discuss amongst the board.
Controller O'Connor.
Yes. So I have a few questions. One, so the suicide prevention report. I know we got it yesterday, but I have some questions. And I think one solution would be if they could answer our questions on that report in writing. So that would be something we could do. So I saw it was done in October. Why does it take so long to get back? Is that because there's multiple drafts, or they sent you something, you went back and forth with them, whether it was correct or not?
We would have to talk to NCCHC about that.
Okay. It's their internal policy that we couldn't put this out publicly when it came out in October.
We could not put it out in October, no.
That's what I'm asking. What's the rationale for that? Is that their policy says that?
It was still in draft form.
It was still in draft form. Okay. So if it was still in draft form, just a couple questions. One, now that this is final, can we add it to our minutes and make it public?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do that. Our office does the minutes, so I'll take the report and do that. There were a couple questions on page 6 when I just flipped through. There were a couple things that were redacted from the report. I'm sure the answer is going to be it's a legal matter, but when there were a couple blacked out lines and a couple screens that were blacked out, why were they redacted from the report?
We felt as though there was a safety and security issue. We do not want to give people photographs and language as to how they may harm themselves. So it was redacted for safety and security issues.
Safety and security issues, okay. Is there any way we can, the board, I know the public, I understand that, I get that. Is there any way we can find out what those security issues were?
Absolutely. Anytime the board would like to see an unredacted copy, all they have to do is I can meet you up at the courthouse, and you can actually see the unredacted policy.
Okay, all right, that's great. So after the report, what changes did you guys make? Since, the draft was out in October, were there any changes made to anything that you did internally at the jail?
We've been working on trying to figure out how some of those recommendations can get integrated into processes. So it's been reviewing and trying to see how they apply into processes.
Okay, because some of at least what I got from the report was the pre-arraignment phase, the medical needs and intake booking to speed that process up. So you guys are looking at what they reported to try to speed that process up.
Yeah, yes, we've been trying to do a lot of process improvements in our healthcare area for intake. So it's a pretty big project, as you know how cumbersome that entire process looks. So this has been one part of us trying to improve that.
Of that process, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then there were a couple things that just stood out. NCCHC concluded that the jail was not compliant with the standards of therapeutic environment in the mental health housing pods. So how are we not compliant with those standards, and what have we changed to be compliant with those standards?
Part of that has to do with the programming on those pods. So we've talked here before about trying to hire therapists and other staff to support that program.
So it's the overall healthcare question that creates this issue. So
What do you mean?
the understaffing in the health department creates that problem.
Well, there's only, we still have to expand all of our programming, so yes.
Okay. I have a few more questions. One was actually on the de-escalation. I know it's the RFP 8611, the de-escalation training. I know that they had mentioned it in this report as well, increasing specialized training for officers and intake booking, medical and mental health. So we put out an RFP, I think it was way before I got on the board, and it's 8611 for training for de-escalation. I don't know if that was ever finalized.
I'm not sure about that, Mr.
Okay,
O'Connor, so could we?
Yeah, if you can get me that answer, yeah. I mean, if the RFP was out for a while.
What was the RFP number again, Mr.?
8611.
8611.
So then I'll shift, and I do have questions on that report, so I will send more questions as we all go through it. We just got it yesterday, so I'm sure there's other board members that have those same questions. A couple other things that popped up. I know Ms. Hallam asked about the commissary. I know, Ms. Toma, I don't know if we emailed you directly, but I know that you and I were going to have a conversation about the new pricing. So I know we played phone tag, but we did our own internal pricing report that we want to post. And it shows that the commissary numbers, some went down, some were still high. And I just want to figure out within the 5-mile radius how we're getting one number and you guys are getting a number. So we'll come together and compare what those numbers are, how you get it, how we get it, and what the law says as to which method is correct. But we are seeing that some are down, but some are also higher. And then on the RFP that's going out, I know there's still a draft, but I've asked this at a couple meetings. The dietary standards that we're putting in there, can we have that conversation as to what standards we're using for dietary needs. I know I've mentioned it in the past, and I know it's a draft, but I think that's an important conversation to have before the contract is awarded.
So the previous RFP did have those specific standards for the FDA requirements for daily caloric intake, as well as, I can't remember the other document that specified the different food groups and the different types of foods, greens, beans, and all those other aspects that should be included. That has not changed. So those documents are still referenced for those minimum dietary guidelines. The big change in the document, in addition to some administrative components, is, like we discussed at the previous meeting, is the approach to the continuum of care, and not just for the vulnerable population with medical needs, but to take that same philosophy and apply it across the facility as a whole. So in regards, those items have not changed since the already previously published one.
Previous standards are still there. So if we sent you something on what we think would be higher standards, can you look at it and make changes? Because I think there are federal guidelines that could raise the quality a little bit higher, and I'd like to have that conversation. Couple other quick questions. When somebody I think, Warden, you may have mentioned this. When somebody leaves, the resource guides that they are given, and we have our audit is actually almost complete with DHS right now, and we're going back and forth for support for, if I'm a resident of the jail, the family support that they would receive while they're in there if I have a child, a son or a daughter. So I know that we were working on getting more information to those residents that have kids. I just didn't know if DHS had reported that to you or what they plan on doing, because our audit is almost complete. And it was when we saw you at Amachi and going through that process, getting that information to residents that have kids. So that's our audit that we're almost complete with it. We're meeting with DHS again on Monday. But it seems like that information wasn't getting back to the residents. And I think there was a solution of posting things more, giving them more information about who to contact when they have kids if they are residents of the jail. So maybe it's more on DHS, but I don't know if they brought you into that conversation. And we're meeting with them Monday. I just wanted to see if they had moved that ball a little bit about resources to residents with children.
Details. So I will talk to Ms. Dalton, and anything that we can do to get the information to our incarcerated individuals, we will. So I will talk to Ms. Dalton.
Okay, yeah, like I said, we have our follow-up with them on Monday to complete it. And then last question for now, unless something else pops up. So when we heard about the AA meetings not occurring last month, we were told that they were occurring. So they're not occurring, or just not that specific group that spoke today?
The specific group that spoke today was talking about Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay, but...
And that's what we were trying to expand to.
Okay, so AA does meet, but...
Correct.
Narcotics Anonymous does not meet yet.
Not yet. And what we've been trying to do is work with different groups, not just one isolated group that provides those services.
Okay. And last question on the employee that we were talking about to oversee the contracts at the jail. Wouldn't they would report directly to you because it was your budget request, correct? They wouldn't report to HR. They would report directly to the jail. Just so I know the process of what's happening there.
Yeah, organizationally, they're going to be an employee of the jail, and they'll have
because it was your budget request that asked for that position.
Correct.
Okay. All right. It was a little confusing when the first answer came out. So that's all my questions for right now.
Yes, Mr. Moss.
Question, and I don't know if I should direct this to you, the warden, or who, but the incident with Miss Pagisa's son that spoke about him with the broken ribs, and it took so long. Is anybody going to look into that, or is somebody going to be assigned to look, or do you know anything about it that would happen?
Yes, we've been working on his concerns.
Has anybody talked to his mom? Because she said that she's called several times. Is there someone that could talk to her to give her some relief?
My understanding is there's members of the teams who have talked with her.
Okay. That's what I have some.
Ms. Klein?
I have a question about the new pest control. Can you explain how it's different from what was currently? I think it was bi-weekly.
So like I mentioned, so it's an addition to our pest mitigation. We have a different company coming in because they have a different formulary that they're going to be using. So we're going to do an initial heavy mitigation, right? They're going to come in and hit everywhere, much more intense than what they would do in a normal weekly treatment. Part of their mitigation plan and discussion with the Allegheny County Health Department is that first treatment, a deep clean, and then they will be treating the facility twice a week for a period of time, and then they will go to once a week. The current treatment is only once a week, but to make sure that we've addressed any issues and concerns, they'll be hitting it twice a week in those areas I specified that has food preparation and food storage.
Great, thank you. And I have a question about the MAT-APP person. Who is providing that person's supervision?
AHN is doing that.
And this person will have the ability to prescribe MAT under the supervision of?
Correct.
Ms. Holland.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a couple more things, Ms. Moss, you made me think of one. The first thing was, I read an article in the city paper today about the young man with sickle cell, and it actually said that his longtime doctor was arguing with jail medical, saying he needs to get this treatment, and jail medical was denying him the treatment that his longtime, I think it said lifelong medical provider was ordering. So can you speak to why that happens when the jail medical is in direct conversation with the longtime medical provider of someone who's in the jail? Why are you not defaulting to their treatment that they've been doing for what seems like a very long time?
While I can't talk about one individual.
No, that's why I asked generally.
I know.
Yeah.
What I can say is that what was published in that article, there were not a lot of complete accuracies in it.
Can you please correct those inaccuracies for us and tell me what specifically was inaccurate about that article, because it seemed pretty legit to me.
The article was very pointed about one specific person, and no, in a public forum, I cannot.
Okay, so you're alleging that what was written in that article about the individual was untrue? Certain things that were written?
There were, yes.
Okay, and we discuss outside of this setting what you believe those things were?
In executive session, we can do that.
Okay, when would you like to do that?
That's not up to me.
Okay, and then the second thing was the other woman who comes here about her son. She talked about how, and I remember she was here last meeting too, saying the same exact thing as she had to come and say today. And he didn't get medical attention until January 30th. And I think our last board meeting was what, like the 6th? Of January, and he didn't get any medical attention until January 30th. Can you speak to that?
It's going to be the same thing, that I can't say anything about that specific patient, but that's not the whole picture.
Okay, where is the breakdown in communication? Like, where are we missing pieces of the pictures here? Because I just see a pretty clear pictures and you not providing any information that rebuts what we're hearing, just saying, oh, there's more, but I can't talk to you about it.
What would you like me to talk about with that HIPAA doesn't protect?
Can you have a conversation with his mother before you leave here tonight? Can you do that?
I can do that.
Okay. Is that okay, Mom? Is that cool? Okay. Thank you. If you could do that, I'll hopefully have to stop asking about it. Thank you very much. And then my last thing was, I just pulled this up on my phone while we were sitting here. So, we heard the RFP draft we're not allowed to have yet. Even the unredacted NCC HC we're not allowed to have unless we come down to the jail. So I pulled up the statute, Title 61, that governs this board, and it says the books, papers, and records of the prison, including but not limited to the papers and records of the warden and those related to incarcerated individuals, shall at all times be available for inspection by the board. And I would like those times to be all the time, and I can't be at the jail all the time to review them. So this, you have to come down to the jail to see it. The statute actually directly prohibits that. So do you have any response? Can I actually also get a legal opinion in that list of legal opinions you're getting from your lawyer? Can you also get them to interpret the statute and whether or not you are allowed to deny us access to those documents at our request?
Ms. Hallam, I am willing to let the board see those documents whenever they would like. If you don't want to come to the jail, I can come to some location in the court to give you access to these documents. So I am not denying the board any access to the documents. So I will show you the documents.
No, you're saying that I can only see them when I am in your presence. That's not at all times shall be available for inspection by the board. When I'm laying in my bed at home at night, that's a time that I want to read them. When I'm like preparing for this meeting, that's a time I want to read them. I want to study them. I want to learn from them. This says shall at all times be available for inspection by the board. Are they available like right now? I want to inspect them right this second, right here.
They will only be available if I'm present for you to review the documents, as we've been saying for the last year, Ms. Hallam.
And I argue you are in direct violation of the state statute by telling me that. Shall at all times be available for inspection by the board. So I want that. I want the draft RFP for the food service. I want the draft RFP for the food service supervisor, the manager, all of those things. The documents that we talk about here need to be available for us at all times. It doesn't say except when Warden Harper isn't there in the statute. I can show you it.
I will consult with the law department to get back to you.
Yeah, a written legal opinion for the 3 things, including that. Written, signed. Thank you. And that's all I got.
Any additional questions? Sheriff Kraus?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
What's up? I'll come.